They say some names carry music in their blood. Names that don't just show up on record sleeves, but echo through family dinners, church halls, and late night radios. LeVert was one of those names. Three young men barely out of their teens stepped into the spotlight carrying a sound that felt older than their years. Deep, soulful, heavy with emotion. At a time when R&B was shifting, they sounded like they came from another era, an era of slow burns and quiet storms. But behind the smooth harmonies and chart-topping hits was a pressure few ever saw. A pressure that doesn't fade when the crowd goes home. A pressure that follows you into silence. One brother would be found lifeless in his own bed. Another would die behind bars, confused, terrified, and unheard. Two lives gone before 40. Two endings no one imagined when the music first began. This is not just a story about fame. It's a story about expectation, about legacy, about what happens when success arrives faster than peace, and it leaves one question hanging in the air. If you gave everything to your art, your family, and the people around you, who was left to take care of you? Cleveland, Ohio was not a place most people associated with glamour, but inside one house, the one everyone called the big house music lived and breathed. Gerald LeVert grew up surrounded by sound, not the kind you chase, but the kind that surrounds you before you even understand what it is. In the basement of their home, instruments lined the walls, drums, keyboards, guitars. This was not a hobby room. It was a training ground. Their father expected discipline, not shortcuts. Being born into a famous family did not come with free passes. If anything, the standard was higher. Mistakes were corrected. Songs were rewritten. And almost good enough was never enough. Gerald was the one who took it seriously first. Even as a child, his focus was different. While others played, he listened. He studied emotion. He wasn't chasing applause, he was chasing truth and sound. Sean was different, more physical, more drawn to sports than microphones. Music was not his dream, but Gerald insisted he belonged, not out of ego, but loyalty. Gerald didn't see a group without his brother in it. By their teenage years, talent began to pull others in. That's when Mark Gordon entered the picture. Different school, different background, but the same hunger. Once they started creating together, the chemistry was impossible to ignore. They were young, too young for clubs, too young for industry rooms, but they kept going. Talent shows, small events, any stage that would let them stand on it. They recorded songs on basic equipment, chasing something they couldn't yet name. When they finally played their demos for their father, the response wasn't praise. It was pressure. Go back, rewrite, try again. If the music wasn't strong enough to stand on its own, it wouldn't go anywhere. Connections or not. Doors didn't open easily. Industry friends said they sounded too much like the past. Too close to an older generation. Too soulful for where music was headed. So they built their own door, an independent label. A decision that said, if no one believes yet, we will. This wasn't overnight success. It was repetition, long nights, and a belief that their sound mattered even if the world hadn't caught up yet. And slowly, quietly, the foundation was set. Success didn't arrive quietly. Once it came fast. The turning point happened when the group finally stepped onto a national stage. A performance seen by millions shifted everything. Suddenly, the name LeVert was no longer local. It was circulating in industry rooms where decisions were made. A major label deal followed. With it came resources, promotion, and expectations. The group was streamlined, reshaped into a tighter unit built for longevity. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about survival at the top. Then the hits started landing. Records climbed the charts not because they chased trends, but because they sounded honest. Their music carried weight, emotion you could feel before you fully understood it. And at the center of it all was Gerald's voice. Raw, controlled, and unmistakable. When Casanova hit, everything changed. It crossed boundaries. R&B fans embraced it, pop audiences followed. The song didn't just play at parties, it defined them. It lived on radio, in films, and on dance floors far beyond the United States. Behind the scenes, the ambition expanded. Gerald and Mark formed a production camp, quietly shaping hits for others, writing, producing, guiding. They weren't just performers anymore, they were architects of the sound. Collaborations multiplied. Tours stacked on top of tours. Different cities every night. Different faces. Same pressure. Then came another leap, blending R&B with hip-hop before it was common. A bold move that widened their reach and placed them ahead of the curve. They weren't following culture. They were helping create it. Albums went gold. Singles went #1. The group became a fixture of late 80 seconds and early 90 seconds black music. From the outside, it looked perfect. Youth, fame, influence. But the higher they climbed, the heavier everything became. Schedules tightened, expectations grew louder, and the space to breathe slowly disappeared. This was the peak, and like many peaks, it came with a price no one could see yet. At some point, success stopped feeling shared. It started feeling divided. As the group's momentum slowed, Gerald's star continued to rise. People around him said it out loud, sometimes gently, sometimes not. He was bigger than the group now. The industry saw it. The label saw it. And eventually, the pressure forced a choice. Gerald stepped into his solo career with confidence, and the results were immediate. Chart-topping singles, platinum success. Critical praise that had eluded him for years finally arrived. But inside the group, the shift hurt. Mark and Sean wanted LeVert to stay whole. They didn't want a replacement. They didn't want a new lead voice. And they didn't want to watch the thing they built slowly drift apart. Attempts to keep the group alive followed. Albums were made, tours were planned, but the chemistry wasn't the same. By the late 1990 seconds, the fractures became impossible to hide. Creative disagreements turned personal, blame replaced collaboration, and when the final group album failed to connect, relationships collapsed with it. Mark walked away. Years passed without a word. A partnership that once felt unbreakable dissolved into silence. Gerald, meanwhile, never stopped moving. If anything, he moved faster. New groups, new albums, new tours. He worked as if slowing down might let something catch up to him. But the body keeps score. Chronic pain followed old injuries. Sleep became difficult. Stress stacked from every direction. Family, responsibilities, financial pressure, and a music industry that was changing faster than he could control. Then came the legal trouble. A confrontation with police that played out in two very different versions. Charges were filed. Some were later dropped. But the damage to his peace and public image was already done. In November of 2006, Gerald LeVert was found unresponsive in his home. He was 40 years old. The medical examiner ruled his death accidental. A combination of prescription medications, underlying health issues. A system pushed too far, too long for the world. It was shocking. For those closest to him, it was devastating and painfully complicated because no one believed he meant to leave. They believed he was just trying to survive another night. When Gerald LeVert died, the reaction wasn't limited to fans of R&B. It rippled through Black America in a way that felt personal. His voice had been a companion at weddings, in cars after midnight, in moments when words were hard to find. His passing forced uncomfortable questions about pressure, about health, and about how much the industry really protects the people who carry it forward. When the Grammy finally came, it arrived too late. Awarded after his death, it felt less like celebration and more like regret. A reminder that recognition often comes only after silence. Then, just as the family was still grieving, tragedy struck again. Sean LeVert's death pulled the focus away from fame. and directly onto the American system itself. This wasn't about music anymore. This was about incarceration, medical neglect, and how quickly a human being can disappear behind procedure. Sean entered jail with prescribed medication he depended on daily. It was taken from him. Requests for help were delayed. Symptoms were misunderstood or ignored. Hallucinations followed. Fear followed. Restraints followed. And then his heart stopped. The official ruling said natural causes, but for many watching, it didn't feel natural at all. The lawsuit that followed wasn't just about compensation. It was about accountability. When the family won, it forced a change. New intake, screenings, new standards, new rules meant to prevent another ending like Sean's. In that way, his death became a line in the sand. Internationally, people saw something familiar. A talented black family lifted high and then left vulnerable once the spotlight dimmed. In America, the story hit close to home because it wasn't rare. It was recognizable. And that recognition is what made the LeVert story impossible to forget. In less than 2 years, Eddie LeVert buried both of his sons. No parent is prepared for that. And no amount of faith or fame makes it easier. Gerald was 40. Sean was 39. 2 lives that should have had decades left ended while the music was still inside them. For Eddie, the loss never really closes. He has spoken openly about the call he didn't make, about the silence that followed, and about how music became the only place where grief could breathe. That honesty is part of the LeVert legacy too. Gerald left behind more than hits. He left songs that told the truth slowly, songs that didn't rush emotion, but let it sit. His writing lives on through other voices, other records, other moments people still turn to when life feels heavy. Sean left something different, but just as important. His death forced change. The lawsuit his family won didn't just acknowledge failure, it corrected it. New rules, new screenings, a law created so someone else wouldn't have to go through what he did. That is impact beyond charts. Mark Gordon continues to speak, to preserve, to remind people what LeVert meant and what it cost. Foundations were created. Warnings were issued about prescription drugs, stress, and silence among entertainers. And the music still plays at cookouts, at weddings, late at night when the house is quiet. LeVert is no longer a group standing under stage lights. It is a memory, a lesson, a sound that refuses to disappear. If their story made you think of a song that carried you through a hard time, share it below. If it reminded you of someone you lost too soon, say their name. And if you believe these stories deserve to be remembered, not rushed, not forgotten, consider staying with us. Some voices leave early, but their echoes stay